Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's DLloyd. So we officially have the salary cap numbers for the 2024-2025 NBA season, and it's going to be a very important one because the new CBA with the first apron and the second apron rules, yes, they were kind of in effect, but they fully go into effect this offseason, and we're going to go over some of what's going to happen if you are a first apron team, what's going to happen if you're a second apron team, and kind of where teams sit when it comes to where exactly they are, and maybe some things that you will see from teams heading into the offseason, because it's still somewhat new. And even me, I'm still learning a lot really about the first apron, second apron stuff, but how are teams going to navigate? How are they going to build the teams around it? Because it's a tough situation that we have not seen in the NBA ever. So very, very interesting stuff, but let's go ahead and discuss and jump into things so we can really figure out together what exactly is happening and what can we expect in the offseason. So according to Adrian Wojnarowski, we have the projected salary cap levels, which is pretty much where they're going to be unless something crazy happens. So the minimum team salary going to be $127 million. That's pretty much locked in. I expect that to be the number as well. Tax level is going to begin at 172, which is up $7 million. The first apron level also up pretty much everything up $7 million. That goes to 179. So the first apron starts at $179 million towards your payroll. And then the second apron level is at 190, so $7.5 million. So crazy stuff, because this is going to allow teams to kind of figure out what to do in the offseason. It's going to be tough for a couple of these teams to maneuver. So if you're not fully aware of what is happening when it comes to first apron, second apron, we already know the tax level that has been around for a while. When you are a tax paying team, you have to pay tax really about how much money you go over, right? But first apron team, second apron, that is a new thing to kind of prevent teams from building super teams and stack teams and all of that nature, try to spread the talent throughout the NBA. So when you are a first apron team this year and a second apron team this year, it's pretty much the exact same rules except for one change. So right now, if you are an apron team, you cannot acquire any player via sign and trade. That is not allowed currently. You also cannot pretty much participate in the buyout market. So you cannot sign any player that was waived that made over the mid-level exception, which is $12.2 million. So they were waived. You are not allowed to pick them up, which is going to be huge in the buyout market this season. If we see any of those players, they will not be eligible to be picked up by a first or second apron team. Salary caps in trade, the salary must be within 110% of one another, not the 125 that we are used to. So a little bit more strict there. You are not allowed to trade or include cash in a trade. That is between both aprons, but the main difference right now is the first apron team, they can still use the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is the $5 million mid-level exception. For second apron teams, they are not allowed to use that exception at all. So that was the main difference between first and second apron this year. But when we go into the second apron next year, where the full thing is intact, is going to be a lot more stringent, because second apron teams, of course, everything we just said, you still cannot do. You cannot use any trade exception generated by aggregating multiple salaries now. You also cannot use any trade exception that you got the previous year. So if you're able to get a trade exception previous year, you cannot use that once you become a second apron team. But the big ones for second apron teams moving forward: first round picks for the next 7 seasons. So once you become a second apron team, the next 7 years, your first round draft picks are frozen. They are locked. You cannot trade any of those picks. It doesn't matter if there's alternating years. You cannot trade any of those picks, which is huge. And that is one of the major differences between the two aprons. Also, if you are a second apron team for 3 out of 5 years, any first round pick that you get automatically goes to the back of that first round. So if you're the only team that breaks that rule, you will have pick 30th. No matter if you were the worst team and drew the first overall pick, you now have pick 30. So those are pretty big ramifications when it comes to building your team and what you are looking for. So when we look at teams that could potentially be in trouble now, let's have an example. So the Los Angeles Lakers, they are in a situation, especially trying to make a trade with D'Angelo Russell. We've been talking about it, right? Do they go out and they get a DeJounte Murray where they're locked in? The Lakers will be sitting at $178.8 million in the offseason. And that is if, of course, D'Angelo Russell accepts that player option at $18.7 million. Taurean Prince becomes a free agent. You did not bring him back. And Max Christie becomes a free agent. Once you sign Max Christie, you are over that first apron. So now everything that takes effect will take effect with the Lakers. So that is going to be very interesting to see, because they're only $200,000 short of that first apron. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see how they maneuver that moving forward. And if you look at this year, the 2023-2024 season, you had the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. Those were your first apron teams. When you go into the second apron this season, you have the Golden State Warriors, the LA Clippers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Phoenix Suns, and you have the Boston Celtics. Now, when you take a look at the Boston Celtics and the projected salary going into next season, now remember, second apron begins at $190 million. The Celtics are scheduled to be sitting at $200.3 million. So well over that second apron. So now they're going to probably have some tough decisions to make. This will be the second year that they are a second apron team. You do not really want to hit that third year, because you're going to begin losing that pick towards the end of the round. So what are you going to do with it? Now let's look at what they have. Now, of course, you're now moving from Jason Tatum, who's scheduled to make $34.8 million next year. You can't do anything with Jaylen Brown, whose extension will officially kick in next season. He will be scheduled to make $52.4 million. Jrue Holiday, player option at $39.4. He's not going to turn that down. Kristaps Porzingis, $29 million. He's not going to get rid of that. Derek White is a name that's probably very well going to be in trade talks, because he's scheduled to make $19.6 million. If they could come off of that, that will help them tremendously. Al Horford, another name that we could hear, making $9.5 million. Is he a guy that you can move off from? But besides that, you have Peyton Pritchard making $6.7. Everybody else making $2 million or less on that Celtics team. So not a lot of wiggle room. You're going to have to make some type of decision, or be okay with being that second apron team for a second straight season and going from there and seeing, if you go win the championship, and then deciding the following year what to do with it. So a lot of maneuvering is going to be taking place. A lot of changes from really how teams construct their rosters are going to be taking place. Like I said, we had this season, this past off season, but it wasn't in full effect. Now going into this year, with everything comes into the picture, I do think teams are going to move slightly differently when it comes to how they're going to really figure things out. Because you even look at the Clippers. The Clippers only scheduled to be sitting at $171 million, but that is without James Harden. What do you do with James Harden? You would assume they would try to sign James Harden. So then PJ Tucker on an $11 million player option, you would assume he would opt into that. So he would have to be a guy who would probably leave this trade deadline. I think you can see a situation where PJ Tucker gets moved. Norman Powell at $19 million is a player that could be moved from the Clippers. Terrence Mann at $11.4. They were reluctant to move him, but if you can't get under that, do you decide to move him? Do you still hold on to him? These are the decisions teams are going to have to make. And it's going to be interesting, and it will spread out talent throughout the NBA. This is exactly what they wanted, and we are going to get it. Teams going to have to make some tough decisions, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately for my Lakers, they're one of the teams that's going to be tight. They're going to have to make a lot of decisions as well. But as just a fan of the NBA, I'm here for it. I think it makes GMing probably a little bit more difficult, but it's going to spread around that talent for sure. So that's what we have right now. Those are the numbers going into next season, at least the projected numbers going into the next season. And those are the first and second apron rules. If we were not sure of the salary cap and the apron rules and what they meant, there you go. There you go. There's a quick rundown of it, man. But I'm looking forward to it, man. You guys let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions on the first apron, second apron stuff moving forward. And if you have any thoughts really on teams like the Lakers, teams like the Celtics or the Clippers that we just talked about that are right there, going to be tight, trying to get underneath those. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. And as usual, hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please do me a favor. Go ahead and leave this video a like. It helps me out a lot. And subscribe if you haven't already. It's DLloyd. I'm see y'all next time. Peace.